Countries in Southeast Asia are marking 20 years since a massive tsunami swept ashore, killing more than 220,000 people. A powerful earthquake struck off Indonesia's western coast in 2004, sending ocean waters surging toward more than a dozen countries. People in Indonesia's Aceh province have been holding memorial services.
20 years on, the scars left by the tsunami are felt across Banda Aceh. More than 14,000 unidentified victims were buried in this mass grave, one of several in the area worst hit by the disaster. People gathered here early in the morning to pray for those killed.
I'm a tsunami survivor. I don't know if my mother, brother, and sister were buried, but I believe they were, and wherever their bodies are, my prayers will reach them.
Later, hundreds joined a memorial service at Baitur Rahman Grand Mosque, a local landmark. It became a symbol of resilience after it withstood the tsunami, which is still affecting life here.
This anniversary isn't very much different compared to previous years. Even though time has passed, the same feeling haunts us to this day, especially those of us who lost their families at that time.
The 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami was one of modern history's worst natural disasters. Triggered by a powerful earthquake, it killed more than 220,000 people across the region, 170,000 of them in Indonesia alone. Nearly 2 million people were displaced, mostly in Indonesia, as well as in Sri Lanka, India and Thailand. Commemorations have been held in multiple countries hit by the disaster.
There are many lessons that I can take from this tragedy. This life is only temporary, so we will do the best in this life to be useful for others.
A message resonating with many still missing their loved ones.
Let's take a look now at how the region is dealing with potential future disasters. Rina Suryani Oktari is with the Tsunami and Disaster Mitigation Research Center in Banda Aceh, Indonesia. Rina, welcome to the program. Now, the Indian Ocean area was hit by the tsunami in 2004. Monitoring systems were installed in that region. How hard is it to implement reliable disaster management measures?
After the tsunami 2004, there are so many efforts in disaster management, especially after the tsunami. There is a new law on disaster management, number 24 year 2007, and we have institutionalized the disaster management agency from the national and also the provincial and district level. So there actually there is a system in place in order to enhance the disaster preparedness and community resilience toward disaster. But of course, after 20 years tsunami, there are still many homework that we need to work together, because disaster management is not only the responsibility of the government, but also this is a need a multi-helix, multi-stakeholders to really work together in enhancing disaster preparedness toward disaster.
You talk about this being a responsibility not just of the government. How much of a challenge is it to prepare people for a future earthquake without making them overly nervous or fearful?
Yeah, I think it is very important when we are conducting disaster education or disaster socializations and increasing the awareness toward disaster, is to ensure that the knowledge that we transfer, the knowledge that we disseminate is the right knowledge. Because actually there are so many efforts, as I mentioned, to enhance the disaster preparedness, but still there are misconceptions on disaster knowledge itself. For example, during the earthquake in 2012 that happened in Banda Aceh, there is so many misconceptions among the community, especially on the tsunami early warning system. So most of the community think that the tsunami siren will work automatically if there is a potential of tsunami after a big earthquake, which is totally wrong, because the tsunami siren will be manually activated. And also regarding the meaning of the tsunami siren when it will be activated. So most of the community think that the tsunami siren, if it will be activated, it means that tsunami will come. So of course, this perception can create panic during the emergency situation. That's why in 2007, there is a false alarm because there is no earthquake, but suddenly,
Right.
the tsunami siren activated without but there is no earthquake
Got
in
it.
it.
Rina Suryani Oktari with the Tsunami and Disaster Mitigation Research Center in Banda Aceh, Indonesia. Thank you so much. Could something like this happen again? Let's bring in Dr. Laura Kong, Director of the International Tsunami Information Center in Hawaii. Laura, thank you for joining us. Hawaii has been monitoring tsunamis since the 1960s, and after the Indian Ocean tsunami monitoring systems were installed in that region, how reliable are they today?
Yes. So after the 2004 tsunami, there was a call for action on the part of the world, but especially in the Indian Ocean countries, and a global tsunami warning system was installed, especially in the Indian Ocean by March 2005. The Pacific Tsunami Warning Center, based in Hawaii in the United States, and the Japan Meteorological Agency stepped up to provide interim services in March of 2005, and those continued through 2013 when Indonesia, Australia, and India stepped up, and now we have a full-fledged global alert system, especially in the Indian Ocean.
How does the alert system work?
So the alert system is monitoring, by and large, earthquakes, since they cause about 80% of the tsunamis we see around the world. When those earthquake occurs and the centers detect a large earthquake, a great earthquake, they're able to look at the potential for tsunami genesis and then be able to provide alerts to national authorities, and their national authorities, based on the assessment of the potential threat, will issue warnings to their populations. And hopefully what we're looking at is these populations will react in a very good way. They'll know that if it's a local tsunami, they'll feel the natural warnings. They'll go ahead and self-evacuate, head to high ground immediately, and as we see, be prepared for both the earthquake and the tsunami that will potentially come.
What would you say are the main lessons about preparedness and recovery to come from the Aceh disaster?
Sure. I think what we learned from the Aceh disaster was really that people have to be very aware of what a tsunami is. They have to be able to recognize some of the natural warning signs, which are, a very large earthquake where you can't stand, where you're near the coast, know that a tsunami might occur. When you see the sea going out or receding, and so you see the fishes flopping around, that's potentially a tsunami, and they need to evacuate immediately. They shouldn't wait for a warning. They shouldn't wait for a tsunami siren. They just need to go. So really what we learned from the Indian Ocean tsunami is global awareness, and then global awareness that everyone should be prepared, know what their warning signs, know how they're going to receive a warning from both international and national authorities, and then be able to know where to go and when to go.
Dr. Laura Kong, Director of the International Tsunami Information Center, Hawaii, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Joining us now from Nottingham, England, is Professor David Tappin, a tsunami expert with the British Geological Survey and who teaches at University College London. Thank you so much for making the time today. When you look at the scale of the death and destruction, what conditions were present that made the 2004 tsunami especially disastrous?
There are a number of different aspects. I think the first is the magnitude of the earthquake, 9.2, which was massive, one of the largest earthquakes ever. And also the location. The earthquake was on the eastern side of an enclosed ocean basin. And what happened was that the tsunami struck very close to the earthquake source. And at Banda Aceh, over 160,000 people died, and the strike was within 10 minutes. The wave then traveled outwards to strike India and Sri Lanka and Thailand. And it took about 2 hours to reach these countries. Now, today, a tsunami warning would have been issued, and the tsunami in the far field, the countries would have been warned. But unfortunately, in 2004, there was no tsunami warning system. And that meant no warning was given. And so people died in those far locations.
Tell us a little bit more about these early warning systems that have come into place since. How effective would they be in a case like this? Would it be enough to prepare for a tsunami of that scale again?
Undoubtedly. One of the aspects is identifying the earthquake, the magnitude, and the potential for the tsunami. The second aspect is issuing the warning, and then for authorities in the local the countries to mitigate, to make sure that people are evacuated from coastal areas. Now, in 2004, it would have been difficult to evacuate 160,000 people from Banda Aceh. But today, fewer lives would have been lost because the authorities would have acted. Farther afield in India, Thailand, and Sri Lanka, there is no doubt that with a 2-hour time between the earthquake and the tsunami, local populations could have been evacuated, and nowhere near the 60,000, 70,000 people who died then would have died today.
Well, thank you so much for joining us with your insights. That is Professor David Tappin of the British Geological Society, joining today from Nottingham, England.
Thank you.